Rocking Chair Session. With Elisa Di Battista and Maria Teresa Barber. Hi everyone.
Hello everybody and welcome to RCS Rocking Chair Sessions and Volume 15 with our special guest, Barbara Bollini Roca. Hello Barbara, thank you for coming.
Hello.
Hi Barbara. It's so good to have you at the bakehouse again.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming. Yeah, it was, how long ago? Was it like a year ago that you started at the bakehouse?
Yes.
Like as a curatorial?
A short assistant.
As a curatorial assistant,
curatorial assistant for 4 months and a half with Uni and Bibi, the director. And it was a good experience. I didn't deal with any of the decision making as to what was going to be shown, but I did have a very good practical side of how to mount exhibitions, all the last minute preparations and be ahead of time as well, and the things that can go wrong, which something always happens.
And there was a lot in that time. There was a lot going on at the bakehouse with a lot of shows in both galleries. You curated the hallways, right?
We once organized 3 shows at the same time.
Wow, that's a lot.
A lot.
But and your journey took you elsewhere away from the bakehouse, and you've been studying at Florida International University now at FIU locally. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Well, that FIU started for me actually 3 years ago.
Oh wow, cool.
Yes, thanks to actually working with Ruth and Marvin Sackner at their collection. So, which actually when they invited me to have be their assistant, I didn't really think I was going to last more than 2 months, 3 months, because it's a tedious job doing I was actually in charge of scanning and taking photographs of the objects and the artwork, which was so incredible just to be in front of these works. The majority belong in a museum and being surrounding, but all of that quantity of work, information, history, and having them both was a unique experience. They are, well, Ruth passed away, sorry. I still feel she's still here. And
when did she pass away?
Already, it's going to be 2 years.
2 years. So shortly after you met her?
No, it was 2 years and a half after I had already worked with her, and I had met her before that.
Big collectors of concrete poetry. The biggest here in South Florida.
About it, right?
Yes, because you're related. Your work is related with text art. Yes.
Yeah.
So it was a wonderful experience. They opened up my world into this underground culture of art that is now it's becoming a little more mainstream. And that started actually with, there's a Bolivian artist, Gombringer, but he lived in Swiss and works with Max Bill, and ended up doing some of the first concrete art, which is poems that become visually. So they usually use a typewriter that they transform, and so with the typewriter they start to do shapes and create different forms in the paper,
which is very much what Elisa is doing in her work.
A little bit different, but the collection of the Sackners is just so phenomenal. I mean, some of these artists, what they do with typewriters, there was this one female Italian artist who made paintings and just with typewriters, so it was like quite phenomenal. So you were able to work with them.
Yes.
Are you still in contact with Mr. Sackner?
2 years and a half. Yes.
Oh, excellent, great.
He's doing great, and we're actually working on curating a show, which I started when I was at FIU with. So this is the thing. From thanks to them, I got so inspired, and I loved it so much that I stayed for more than 2 years working for them. And I moved when I knew about there was this certificate of museum studies at FIU, and I entered that, completed that certificate for a year and a half, and then transferred to the curatorial studies. And that's how it all evolved, kind of like organically, because I never expected to.
Because you were always an artist, right? You were always
doing curating.
Yeah.
But I think that's a little bit how I like the strange ways in which life can flow. Then you end up with nice surprises when you take risk and you try something different that you didn't know that you might even like. So it was a discovery, and it was, of course, my inspiration has been Ruth and Marvin. That's started all of this. And the program at FIU are just incredible. They have a curatorial master's program, which is basically more theory and theoretical based. Alpesh Patel is is actually the director of the master's program, and he's doing a great job. So.
And how long is the curatorial program? Because you mentioned the certificate one.
It's 3 years.
Okay.
If you do it full time.
Well, that's great.
Yeah.
And this show that you brought us the flyer for, it's called Form as Context.
This
was
is part
of the program
that they're doing now in order to have a more practical side to the program. So they offer students different opportunities into different curatorial, and this was open for proposal. And I started the proposal a year ago, last summer, and kept working on it, and it evolved. And the fascinating thing for me was I was learning while doing it, which was my idea. It's like I really want to learn more about form and how form relates to the content, and then how the content relates with the context, and the form with the context. And then just realize that they're all intertwined, and actually none can exist without the other. But we separate it in order to study them, I guess. Like we do. We need to divide things. We need to classify things. Our brain works that way. It was nice to make a stretch without taking the importance and the essence of what form is. It's just adding a different layer of how to see it with the context surrounding it, which actually, without it, there would be no final artwork, of course. Our inspiration is our context, basically.
I'm curious to know, now that you've been doing this program, like you mentioned, you put the proposal in, and then obviously there's like the selection process, the quantity of pieces, and then you have other things, like you mentioned, things go wrong in installation and how things are lit. Could you walk us through the process of how you go through that?
Yeah. It was a long process.
And we have to tell our listeners that Barbara brought some typewritten pages that are
just in case it's back up.
Times Roman 12 probably, and they're pretty full, and there are a couple of them.
I haven't read from them yet.
She did
But
a lot of research.
She
did a lot of research, and she came prepared to the interview.
It's always good to have a backup. But yeah, make it organic. Just
I'm gonna try. I love organic, so let's just doing organic.
You had the proposal. They said green light. You've got it, Barbara. You got the space.
First step, approved by Alpesh Patel.
Nice.
After reworking it several times.
With artists in mind already?
I had some already, because actually the idea spurred from me having met 2 artists in the past year, that same year, and they were talking about how they start to create an artwork, basically one of them without any previous sketches, and the other one, what he has in mind is more what the viewer will get the impression and the feelings the viewer will get from his work, rather than the concept.
So completely opposite.
And coming,
points, yeah.
yes, and coming from college, as I did, work, and we are constantly surrounding about content being the concept being the most important aspect of an artwork. It was nice to hear that there were artists that were doing it without any previous idea, but my research, and Toma Abs is one of them, 2006 winner of the Turner Prize, and she also makes these incredible paintings out of just her head and her brain, because I think she doesn't use a ruler either, which is incredible. Once you see her works, I was like, it cannot be. She has to have used a grid or something. Nothing was used. And the same with Matthew Chernoff, that is in the show. He's an FIU student. He also didn't use any ruler, and we were debating if he did or not use masking tape or any type of ruler
like grid
system. And no, he does it all. Also very organically, very intuitively, and what I forget, it was, well, the ideas are already intuition is what? Intuition is actually knowledge that we have gathered during different experiences and periods of time that are already instilled in our brain, and we're just putting them out there to be expressed. So it is a kind of content and knowledge coming out, even if there's no preview writing or thinking of it. So all of this comes back to, I think I was in search of understanding how I work in a way, because I work very much like I believe that the more connectors you have. I have studied graphic design. Before that, I painted for 7 years in Santa Cruz in Bolivia, and I exhibited.
And you're from Bolivia also, right?
Argentina, born in Argentina, raised in Bolivia.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and so.
And you were in Paris as well.
And I was in Paris, which is where my art love started and never stopped. But the thing is, I feel like it's all connected. Digital art, now curatorial. Even if you want to study anthropology, if you want to study social sciences, at one point they're all going to connect, and they're all valid information. I don't believe you have to have a one structure, rigid structure to follow. Even a lot of people question why don't you have a full, or why aren't you full-time in an art studio? Because I'm interested in other things as well, and I feel if I don't have enough information and from the other sources, what am I going to say? What am I trying to do in my studio? And sometimes I've gotten to, many times, to a point of, what is it that I'm going to say in my studio, and what am I going to work on? And all of those questions kind of like stop me, and I take different routes in order to find answers to those questions. And I feel it really helps me. It informs my work at the end. So I feel it's so organic. They all communicate. Everything is interconnected. And people have different ways of working. Some artists like to work in a conceptual way, in which they need to write first the idea. Other artists, no, they just get into the studio and they have this energy, intuition bursting out. They just go directly on the canvas or the object. So, and they're all valid, all valid forms. We're all unique and different, and we all have different ways of expressing ourselves. So, and I work differently too.
I think it's so interesting how different artists are in their studio practice as well. and also in the amount of time that they feel that they have to spend in their studios. Like I know artists who are really like in the studio, like they would have like a daytime job, and it's like a 40-hour job, and they're especially a professor of mine at the San Francisco Art Institute. He just won the SEGA award at the San Francisco Art SF MoMA, which was pretty awesome. And he was saying like, yeah, he brooms his studio every morning. That's how he starts with a broom, you know. And
there's a ritual.
He's in the studio every day from like, I would say probably 8 a.m. The way I know him, and then he works all day, and then he goes home to his family, and then that's his practice, you know. I feel for me it's more like I have to be outside of the studio as well. It's just as important, or the bathtub, or you know, wherever I am where I feel ideas hit me more. I don't know, how is it?
You can't be there the whole time. No, I guess you have to find a balance, I guess. And like you were saying, Barbara, everybody has a different journey in terms of their own individual practice, which I guess for Barbara's, I want to go a little bit back and forth because you're both curator and you're artist. Where do you currently have your artist space? I wanted to ask.
It's at two different places.
Okay.
I'm painting from my home.
Okay.
And then I have the print shop, the ABC Silk, where I do the printing made at the Citadel in Little Haiti, between 82nd and 83rd.
And ABC
Street.
Silk, is that your shop? So
Yes.
you started that?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's
It's very small. It's tiny. It's like a homemade, almost kind of studio. Where you're invited, because I love inviting artists.
Oh, I would love to visit you. That's super
we
cool.
already had ideas about what we wanted to silk screen.
Yes, please come by.
So when did you start that studio?
The idea. So
when did you start that? It's like amazing.
In college, I had a wonderful teacher, Kathleen Husbets.
That was in the New World.
Yes, New World School of the Arts, and I fell in love with silk screening, and I wanted to silk screen so badly, and there wasn't a place for artists to go silk screen. It was only at college, or I found this other place in Little Haiti, the Cultural Center is the other place that has one. And I decided, well, what the heck? If I really want it, I have to open one myself. That's it.
Incredible. So you did?
Yes, and I opened one, small, but and I do only 24 inches by 36. That's the largest I go. And it's been working.
And it's like, you run it like a company, or how do you run it?
It has to be like a company, even though it's not like a t-shirt company. I haven't spent $15,000 on equipment. It's just very rudimentary equipment. And but it has to be as a company, which is strange to me. But the idea is to have not only me making art, but also having people come and take classes, and they do. I don't have it open full time. This year, I've been working more on it because I got an assistant, and that really helped me
to open it more.
And the funny thing is that time-wise, though, silk screening takes so much time. You need at least 2 to 3 days to accomplish a print. And I wish I had more time. Like, I would stop curatorial and I would stop my painting and just and my other job, because I'm also cataloging. I wish I stopped that and just be able to focus 5 days a week. But that means, if I do that, that means I'm sacrificing everything else. And I really don't want to sacrifice everything else. So I keep juggling with 2-3 things at the same time.
What are you cataloging?
I'm cataloging books right now. It's just an extension
Well, that's kind of neat.
Yeah.
I guess jumping back to your curating, we love jumping back and forth, especially me. That's how my mind works.
I want to go to Argentina.
I know.
What about you?
How old were you when you left Argentina?
Oh, I was months, so I can't give you much
Really? So you were just really born there, and then your parents decided to leave?
Yes.
That's how it happened?
Yes.
And your parents are both from Argentina?
Both Argentine, yes.
So how'd you end up in Belize?
Bolivia.
No,
Bolivia, sorry, and then from Bolivia. So apologies.
My dad got a job there.
Oh, great.
And we moved, and it was supposed to be 2-3 years, and we ended up staying there forever because
Wow.
Bolivia is beautiful. And my mom would
It's
always,
tropical. It's very tropical, just
she would
like
always
Miami.
compare the quality of life between Bolivia and Argentina for us as children, and she didn't want to take that away from us. It's such a calm place. Still is one of the calmest. It's always been the one with less conflict.
Very peaceful.
In South America, people are really nice.
So,
in general,
are you now a Bolivian person?
I feel more Bolivian,
right?
Yes.
Because it's like, but you
strange.
still have an Argentinian
But I also
passport?
and I also have a lot of cultural Argentinian things, so I'm a hybrid.
You're a hybrid.
Yes.
That's super Miami.
Oh, that's so
being a little bit
Miami.
from everywhere. Yeah. When did you make the move from Bolivia to Miami?
12 years ago now.
Oh,
Yes.
And how come?
Almost 13.
How come you ended up here? We always ask.
Yeah,
right?
I know.
I like to know.
Yes.
Yeah.
I wanted a change. I had been in Europe earlier, in Paris for 4 years. It was incredible, the cultural aspect. Just going to the museums, the Orsay, Louvre, the people, the culture, the food. It was more than a college experience, I felt. So after being in Bolivia for 7 years, I felt it was time for me to move, and Bolivia felt a little constraining in some ways. And I was debating either Argentina, Buenos Aires, or Lima, Peru, where my older sister lives, and Miami. And then it ended up being Miami because I also was falling in love with a guy from Miami, which helped the move as well.
Guess who else
The
did
decision.
That? I ended up here
Based
because
on
of
love.
the guy too.
Yes.
And it's not the worst thing that could happen to you,
no,
right? It's
no.
actually pretty
I
neat.
mean,
Yeah.
if I had to choose, I was like, love comes first, always. Yeah. At least for me. The idea of a family and creating and having a family, which didn't end up happening with my ex-partner. We
The guy who brought you
recently
here.
separated. But it's all good because it's part of life. Everything has a reason for it not to be or to be. And I'm just letting things play out themselves more organically.
And set you on this path, yeah.
Yes. Things happen for a reason.
And how many years are you missing now at FIU for your program? Because like you did the show, is there another show that has to come up for you to graduate?
Yes, I
or?
still have to do the thesis.
Okay.
Final thesis, which is going to take a year. I think it's a year and a half or a year of work. And I think I have, I'm not sure exactly how much time. I have to go see Alpesh for him to tell me how my credits is going and all of that. But I could stay studying forever. I love it.
You've been in
After
school
this,
quite
I think
a long
I'm going
time.
to look for something else to continue studying. I love it. So,
Yeah, me
I
too.
feel
I mean,
you never end up learning. It's one of those
It's a
things.
good place to be.
Yeah.
I always felt at home
Yeah.
in school. Yeah.
But you're also at the PAM, right? You have to deal with
And the PAM is
learning
actually
with artists
a
and
place that feels
exhibitions.
like a little bit like a school substitute at the moment. Yeah, I learn a lot there.
You mentioned painting. Were you classically trained as a painter, or did you start painting when you were little? And if so, like about like what age? Like when did you?
Actually, I didn't start when I was little, even though my mom did keep some of my paintings under her pillow. I wanted her pillow, which are great. I'm like, this is great.
That's amazing.
But I actually started enjoying and knowing. I mean, teachers couldn't believe that when I was 13, 14, you know the assignments in class where you have to copy from whatever character that you want onto a piece of paper, and I did it so similar to the actual that they couldn't believe I did it. So one time I sat in class and I did the whole work in class so that they would believe that I made
because
the drawing.
They thought that you were like just photocopying it, or
yes, they thought I was like doing something strange, and I was like, no, it's me. And the same thing happened actually in France when I took my first oil class with a master painter. It was homework. I had to go back to finish the painting, and we were copying. I forget it was who we were copying.
I love how to practice. You copy the masters, like you
yes.
like.
And she was looking at the painting, looking at me, looking at the painting, and looking at me. And then she looked at me so puzzled. She was, "Did you really do this?" And I was like, I was in such a shock. I feel like...
Who else should have done it? I mean, I bought the real painting.
And it was like... Again, I had to like prove that, yes, it was me.
So you would be like a perfect person to go to if you wanted to
a portrait.
The fortifying of like artwork. You could make like millions with that, right?
The forgeries.
No, don't tell me that. Yeah.
No, but you could. I mean, you could make millions.
No, thank you.
So
yeah, I could, but no, thanks. Would never do that.
And did you
but that's an amazing skill to have.
It is.
It's like if you know.
I love doing portraits now, but I also go into the very abstract realm and in between.
Yeah, I was like, is it oil, watercolor, abstract, realism? Like, what type of stuff did you study, and what were you more attracted to?
Right. Oil painting, well, that was my first class and my last because I didn't like the teacher doubting me. So I was like, I went for acrylic and different classes of drawing and charcoal and printing. Some of my first prints were done there. They already used the plexiglass.
Oh, cool.
20 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah. The actual grade class I had was here in New World, going back to oil painting with Aramis, which is a New World School of the Arts teacher. I remember his last name. Sorry.
Remember just
Aramis Gutierrez is probably a little too young to teach painting at New World.
Yes, he's great too. But so this teacher, he goes to Florence each year and brings back the actual Renaissance techniques for the classroom. He's wonderful, so knowledgeable. I absorbed all I could and then continue from there. But I do go back to my acrylic and the more abstracted forms.
Which is on your website, is that?
Yes, those are the more abstracted forms. And it's hard as an artist because it seems like you have to have one defined line, and it's difficult to, even though I do, and I'm gonna add my portraits very soon, because I do that as well. It's hard for me to keep one line in everything, I guess.
Well, I feel like you don't have to. Like, I know other curators that are also artists, and it's like you could have your different, not just fields that you dabble in, because you also do photography, correct?
Yeah, unless you want to be a cookie cut artist that you need just one line of production, that's not good though. We don't want to go there.
I wish I would be like that I would have just one line, because I feel like the whole marketing and the whole, explaining yourself and I mean, we should tell our listeners, Barbara and I recently screened our films at Filmgate, right? So you're also a filmmaker, but then how do you explain people that you're actually making films, you're taking photographs, you're a painter, you're a curator, it's kind of like people are like, oh, you're a printmaker. People are like, girl, you should better choose, and I said, no, you don't have to choose. That's who you are, and you should be following that. And I mean, sometimes it really is like I experienced it as well. Like you are also said, sometimes the things come together and then they make sense.
They do.
And maybe for a long time they're separated, and then you do a show like this, this form as context show where all your different fields are finally, feeding into this one thing.
Right.
And I don't know. I'm all for that. I'm all for
I'm all for being organic and true to who you are.
Yeah.
I try so hard to go into the conceptual route and sticking to just one idea, and I had never been so blocked in my life. I couldn't paint, I couldn't make an artwork, and that's maybe why it was a dark time, I feel, for me. And that, thank God for the Ruth and Marvin Sackner collection, and then other things that came, the FIU influence, and because when you're in those blocking moments, you need to find out why that's happening and go a different route and then come back again. The important thing is never to let go of what you want to do, right?
And even I feel like the blocking also comes a lot when you feel like you have to do something a certain way, or it's kind of like
forced.
A forced thing.
Right. When it's not your way of making.
When you're not following your intuition, your inner path, and you're more letting the outside dictate what you're supposed to do or where you're supposed to go. So I feel I've experienced that myself too.
That's easy to fall into that.
And especially in a school. I feel especially like a school environment, and a lot of people have been saying, oh my God, school was horrible and school was this and that.
You have to break everything you learned basically to discover again who your true self is. But I for me, it was a great experience to go through school.
No, and
because of all the skills you learn. And
agreed. And I guess I'm curious, because you are going through this curatorial process. Like, what other things in preparation of, like, you did the show? Do you do workshops besides writing your thesis? Like, do you want to discuss anything?
Yeah,
that you've been doing?
I realized that I also have to start practicing and being less fearful of just getting out there and doing a show or two, and even have failures and make mistakes. Otherwise, I'm never going to improve or do anything for fear of it not being good enough or criticized. And I think it's just a matter of just not listening to critics, not listening to just going your way. And yes, you're going to make mistakes, and I learned the important thing is that you're doing it, and I applaud everyone that's doing something. They might not be perfect. We're all the first ones to criticize whoever's doing something, and I changed my point of view. I'm never criticizing anything again. Because the incredible force comes from getting your guts and doing it. And I also wanted to mention, though, that the one thing that always kept me going, which is very important in my work, was the Miami River. And also the roots, and I missed my siblings so much. One is in Lima, the other one's in Colorado, and the other one's in Bolivia.
Wow, scattered.
And I felt I was like in Miami, a new place. So my first intuitive thing was to go walking and taking photos of the Biscayne Brickell area, Bay Area. And from there, I then started looking at a map and saying, okay, what is this area? And then realizing there's a whole Miami River. This was years ago, 2011, when I was still in college. And then from there, I wanted to go more into the Miami River, so I went into the Northwest 12th Street area, and then I took the boat under the bridges, and I had a wonderful experience of riding on the Miami River thanks to other artists that took us. They live on the Miami River, and that's actually when I discovered the beauty of the Miami River from the boat, and then I went back again on the boat.
And that's where you shot your film then also, right?
And then afterwards, I've shot the film from a boat, which is related with the Miami fishermen, because I wanted to show a little bit of the different lifestyles that are around the Miami River area. And there's so much to tell from just the area. And then the history came in, the Tecuesta, the first inhabitants. And that history took me, all right, so let's go even further. And then there was the Lake Okeechobee and the Miamians that lived around the Lake Okeechobee until the 1800s, when they were massacred, actually.
Oh my God.
The last remainers to sell as slaves. And Miami means the big waters. And from there stems Miami, Miami River, and our name, which is all big waters. We're all surrounded by water. It's so important. And having lived in Bolivia, which is landlocked, for me the water opening was always a very big source of inspiration. It's one of my favorite aspects in Miami. The beach, the ocean. And the Miami River took me also to discover a little more of where I'm living, what's my geography, my new geography, what's the history, because through it I learned about history, and then connecting to the roots and to the Native Indians, the Guaranis. And I actually did a piece in that time related to it was 2013, related with the Native Americans. And this is an animated piece, digital piece.
I saw that.
So, yeah, the one related to the land.
Between the concrete and the land and the sky. And, also the questioning about how can we really be connected to nature if we live in a concreted world, if you can say that, world, world surrounded by only like artificial materials.
Which takes me to the ICA workshop, the seminar that just happened this summer, intensive, that Jean Moreno organized. RAD, which is there. Oh, now it's ARC. Sorry, it used to be RAD at Cannonball, and now it's ARC. There's going to be another one.
Program?
It's kind of
it's
similar.
Moved from Cannonball to the ICA?
Well, yeah, Jean Moreno is the one that organizes it. So he continued with the same idea, which is to bring actually different knowledgeable and
like speakers, right?
Yes, they experts in different areas, and they're all different themes. And this theme was the Anthropocene and how artists and the art community can deal and help with the Anthropocene. And it was just so beautiful because it was realizing that we do have a power. We have to feel empowered. We are responsible for our environment. We cannot wait for the government or to do something.
Especially not this one.
Yes. Especially this time. And that it's our responsibility to fix the environment. And we have to connect again more with each other. We have to have a unity. And Miami is a really good place to do this right now. With the situation we have with the sea level rise and the water situation. And the fact that the community, even though we are sometimes not so unified, we are very much unified, and we do communicate, and it's a small group. Of course, there's competition, but not as bad as in New York or in somewhere else. It's more of an amicable environment.
Yeah, it's definitely fun.
So
and we actually had an
perfect
artist
place to get together and do
we
something.
had an artist that you should talk to, which is Ernesto Kunde, whose artwork by painting the mangroves over and over.
Or even Jenna Frayne, who also talks about
Jenna
the
Efrain,
environment.
who talks very much about the Everglades.
Right.
So already in our little archive here, those are the artists that stand out, right? As
also caring about the environment and speaking to local issues here in South Florida.
Yeah.
But coming back to your work, I've noticed in your prints, like you mentioned, the ocean and the importance of nature within your work, and also like within your connection to not just the arts, but also like your feeling of home and community. I've noticed that your artwork has a lot of blue cool tones. Your prints, at least. I've noticed you're very attracted to blue, and even I made it out to form as context, and you did the picture we used as your promo. Like, your background is an image from a different artist that had the ocean in it, and there was like there was a connection to earth and to nature, and even to like I feel that like the blue was present for me there as well.
Yes.
How did the body of all those different artists come together for you after you made a proposal and it got back to you? And
that was so it was again pretty much organic. So it was, at first I was looking for artists that were working with different materials, and their starting point was material and how they chose it and how they worked with it. And it also had to be artists that didn't know or didn't really care about the final outcome as a starting point. And they basically, all of them, don't know what the final outcome will be, and they work pretty much intuitively. But it evolved as I was evolving, while I was learning and reading more, and also the curatorial aspect evolved. So I have the ones that I kind of selected them and into segments of context, which we have authorship. It's just a way of classifying. I mentioned that it's not a final definition for the artist's work at all. It was just a way to complement the viewer with another aspect, layer, to view an art show. Because usually the viewer doesn't get to study all these things. So I thought it was going to be interesting for them to see. So the authorship, based on the author's life and his mainly experiences in life, so it's more what comes from within. Then we have the social historical, so it's more like Nick Gilmore. He bases first, for him, is the history of a place, and the idea of for the piece comes from history for him. The downtown streets in Miami. He wanted to showcase and bring awareness and relevance to the history of the downtown Miami, and by making his prints. I don't know if I should explain all of how the process is. I think it's too long, but he basically does prints with his huge pavement rollers, industrial pavement rollers, onto the streets, so the paper's on the pavement.
And then he rolls this huge paper, and then it's a print.
I remember him presenting
and
his work.
And his latest work is related with the Miami-Dade county pines, trees, which are almost extinct and are now being nobody can
redeveloped or something.
They're growing them again, and they're protected. But he reclaims and goes and takes from houses that are being demolished around Miami.
So he salvages.
Salvages. He has contacts with different contractors, so he takes the Miami-Dade pine wood, which is beautiful, and it's anti-termite.
Yeah.
And I recently just read that Flagler on Miami River, when he was on the Miami River, the Flagler workers' houses, when he was building the Royal Palm Hotel, they were all built with that wood because it was against termites. It's a fabulous wood, not like the one we buy at Home Depot.
Yeah, termites are a big issue here in South Florida.
Right. So that was Nick Gilmore, for example. Then
are they all local artists?
No,
So
I had them different. So I have Argentinian artists and another one from Amsterdam, another one from Paris. Yes, and I met them different years at Art Basel, basically.
Oh, so here in
Through Art
Miami.
Basel in Miami. I didn't go out to connect with them. I mean, I connected with them thanks to Art Basel and all.
Wow.
And
And
they're
so
all
you
great
had to
artists.
ship all the artwork.
Actually, no. This is the nice thing. So all of them were in Miami except for one that was in Paris, and he actually was coming anyways to Miami, so he brought them with him for the exhibit. But the pieces from Amsterdam they were made in Miami by the artist. And they're pieces from sight and place, meaning he recollects wood, and this time he did it from the Little Haiti neighborhood, and he constructs these wonderful art pieces. And a local graphic designer and artist, which is also on the show, collects his work. And I had already met him twice at Scope, the same artist, which owns a gallery, the Battalion Gallery, which is very big in Amsterdam. And he recently had shows because his work is just incredible. He started as a street artist. He does work on the street. He just showed in Venice at a small gallery, Copenhagen and LA, and Miami, of course, at the museum. Very interesting people that come through. And then we have with environmental work, Federico Coletta, an Argentine. He's in his mid-40s, but he's already kind of consecrated. How do you say that? Like established. Established in Argentina. And his work, this series, is based on pieces that are made from hidden, burying the canvas under the ground for 2 weeks. He takes them out after 2 weeks, puts them on a rope and washes them, and the stains that are left on the canvas, the natural stains, are part of the piece. And I just learned that the Patagonian soil is one of the richest soils. So it's a very subtle piece, but very strong presence at the same time. And you feel it. It's a strange piece because it's so subtle, but you're so attracted to that. And it's like another power. And it's kind of like the power of nature. And he didn't want to interfere with it at all. And he firmly believes that the context is everything in an artwork for it to be.
How much longer is the show going to be
Oh,
up?
it's going to be until the 30th so 1 more week.
One more week.
Okay, so for those of you
So,
that are
listeners, you got one more week to check out this amazing show.
It's the first art museum at FIU, not the new one, not the Science Museum. People get confused.
Oh yeah, it's in Doral, right? And it's open Tuesday, Saturday, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m.
Yes.
And Sunday noon to 5 p.m.
Yes.
Go check it out. Okay.
I love how you met them all here in Miami. Yeah, you didn't have to seek them out. You weren't given a list. You just met them here. It's become a mecca, kind of where like people are attracted.
And that's really like the positive effect of the fairs, right?
Yeah.
That you can do that.
And then it becomes year round.
Yeah.
Are there any projects coming up that you want to tell us about, or things that you're excited about, or looking forward to, or?
Yes, but I don't like to talk about them so much until they're done.
Well, then that's fine.
You're still in process.
Okay,
yes.
that's cool.
Yeah, working. That's for sure.
Very good.
That's
Very
important.
good.
Well, we're definitely going to make an effort to go visit your studio in Little Haiti at the
The
Citadel,
Silk
which
and
is
the
another
Silk studio.
studio.
Send me an image you want to print, and I'll prepare it.
We actually would love to print our
discussing
rocking
ideas.
chair session.
Yes.
Oh my God, I love it.
We were talking about this
before you got here. We're in collaboration.
And I was like, well, Barbara does
Yes,
that. We were like,
that would be great. Yes, I would love to. Community project.
Yes. Maria has a final question.
Yes.
The final question is, as always, you've been sitting on a magical rocking chair for like 50 minutes now, and it grants you 3 wishes since you got through this ordeal of like, having to talk.
You did so well, totally.
You did so well, yeah. So what would your 3 wishes be?
Oh, I have to state them? Okay.
Yeah, you have. You actually, otherwise they're not gonna be, fulfilled.
Yes, yeah. Well, my 3 wishes are that there can actually be
you can speak in Spanish too if you want to.
Is that it's so important, and I'm like, an environmental revolution, and I would really love that. Would love that to happen. And my second wish is that it's very utopic, but kind of, having like an utopian futuristic view of what an ideal city could be without the toxic elements of the that pollute the environment, and without the toxic elements that create violence between humans. And my third wish,
the third wish is always the hardest one.
I know.
Yes.
I'm so glad we've never
is that it's personal, but I don't want to go there. So
you can hint at it.
Personal third wish. We'll leave it at that. You don't have to share with us. It's a secret.
Yeah.
Well, we'll hope it comes true. We're so happy you were able to visit us.
It's too personal.
Well,
I don't want everyone to know.
That is totally okay.
Well, we wish you best of luck.
The rocking chair will know what it is.
On your journey for your certificate for getting your actual MFA for your curatorial. Yeah. Oh my God, we're so excited for you to do that. We want to see what other shows you have coming up. Your website is connected to our website, so if anybody wants to know like what you're up to, it's on there.
Or about also the ABC Silk Studio
is also on there as well.
We're gonna put the link up.
And if you have any upcoming shows, please let us know. We always love to support our fellow artists and community. So we're so happy you came to see us.
This is great. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you so much for coming, Barbara. Thank you to all our listeners, and we're gonna see you back here, same station
next week with
Monday with
Mr. Michael Gilaltli. I hope I said your last name right, Mr. Michael.
We're gonna work on that.
We're gonna work on that. But thank you, everybody. Bye.
Bye, guys. Bye.